Milton is just a few hours away from slamming the Florida coast. We're focusing on the storm surge and destructive winds, plus where the center of the storm will hit and when.
Then many people still in the dark after Helene.
They just feel disconnected.
Where a surprising haven has emerged to offer everything from food, counseling, and internet access. Plus, vacation homes in western North Carolina damaged yet still open. 5 on Your Side investigates people who are still accepting bookings and mapping out the areas still unsafe to visit.
So we are hours now away from Hurricane Milton making landfall in central Florida. It is a Category 3 storm, and its outer bands have packed certainly a punch.
Florida broke its record today for the most tornado warnings in a single day, 111 of them. 22 have touched down so far. These are 2 of them. On your left is a tornado in Broward County that crossed I-75. Wow. On your right, a tornado as far east as Palm Beach County in the community of Wellington. Thank you for joining us at 7 o'clock. I'm Ashley Rowe.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. Milton is expected again to make landfall soon, sometime between 8 and 10 p.m. Tampa and Fort Myers could see a 13-foot storm surge.
That's huge. Here are a couple of ways North Carolina is connected to the response. Utility crews from Rocky Mount headed to Florida today. Many of them just wrapped up work in the North Carolina mountains. Fort Liberty's 3rd Infantry Division is on standby in Georgia, ready to respond. They have troops, vehicles, and medical supplies.
Let's talk about landfall, though. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joins us now to give us the update from the Severe Weather Center. Kat.
Over the next hour, we're going to see the first part of the eye wall, the northern eye wall, move ashore. And it's that eye wall where you've got the strongest winds of about 120 miles per hour right in this vicinity right here. Landfall will come when the center of the eye actually crosses over land. And we expect this to happen right on the south side of town in Tampa. The Sarasota airport right now reporting winds gusting about 60 miles per hour. Previously, we had a gust just about 20 minutes ago up to 77 miles per hour. A sustained wind there in Sarasota, 58 miles per hour. Already a very powerful storm. It's produced all of those tornadoes as well. Now we've got the extreme wind warning on shore as winds could be sustained up to about 120 miles per hour. The storm is moving to the northeast at about 15 miles per hour. It could remain a hurricane all over the Florida peninsula as it crosses from west to east across Florida, and it should be around Orlando early tomorrow morning. If we take a look at the severe weather threat with this storm, it's a level 3 out of 5 risk, at least 22 tornadoes today. And look at all the heavy rain associated with Milton. All of that will stay to our south. I'll have a closer hour by hour look at how this plays out on Futurecast coming up.
Right now on the WRAL Live Center, we are looking at the state of Florida get lashed out by Hurricane Milton. Look at this live picture of the southernmost point of the United States. This is down in Key West, Florida. You can see those whipping winds and a lot of people who are just standing by, taking pictures. They appear to be unfazed by the high surf that's coming up here on the platform. Of course, we don't advise anyone to do this. This is extremely dangerous. But of course, we're going to go over to a different part of the state. We have over in Fort Myers Beach, this reporter from the NBC affiliate over in Tampa showing a lot of the storm surge that's concerning at this point over in Times Square. This is an area that a lot of people like to visit and hang out. We go over to St. Petersburg. This is a National Weather Service thing that they just tweeted within the past 20 minutes saying that there's an extreme wind warning that's been issued for the Tampa area. They want people to shelter in place. And as a result here, some of the first responder operations have been put on hold until further notice.
Be a long and dangerous night. Thank you. Now to the impacts from Helene. More money is on the way to the North Carolina mountains. At least one university also will soon restart classes. We're going to give you a couple of the updates on the Helene recovery effort. First, state lawmakers passed a big bill today, a lot of money too, $273 million of relief money. Everyone voted yes. No partisan politics here, and it was an emotional moment. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie reported many lawmakers were in tears at certain points today. The money will mostly go to state and local agencies responding to those disaster areas. There's also some money to pay school staff while schools are closed. App State says classes will resume on October 16th. They put this out on social media, an alert this afternoon. The university has resources for students and staff who missed work or lost housing because of the storm. Meantime, crews are still working to turn the lights back on in many communities. WRL's Carly Haynes in Hendersonville. Carly, for the people maybe in the Triangle who just don't get an idea of how bad things are there, the fact that they're still putting the lights back on, that power is still out, really says a lot.
Absolutely, and we just had a woman walk by who just got power restored, so a lot of good news there. There has been some major progress here in Henderson County. This strip right here, there are a lot of people walking around, some cars driving by, so it seems like it's business as usual, but the reality is there's so much that's still needed, and that's where those nonprofits and neighbors are stepping up to help. In the heart of Hendersonville, a space to come together.
They just feel disconnected.
That's been the reality for Mark McCrummon and so many others, met with no cell service and internet for days. Thankful for their lives, worried about their livelihoods.
It's important to, again, for that reason, stay connected so that while you recover physically and emotionally, you can keep your business thriving.
And a central hub is helping with that. It's not a cyber cafe, a fire station, but a children's museum.
This room was full 24 hours ago.
The director of Hands On, Joseph Knight, walks us through a one-stop shop built bottom up for anything anyone could need.
100% of what you see in this room has been given to the museum.
Gift shop shelves filled with baby food, an administrative office, now a doctor's office, and the party room, now a counseling center.
We kept hearing about needs. Well, I need a place to work, and we want to help people who have been, displaced because of the storm. And it just kind of evolved and grew.
Nearly 400 people come here a day to get the basics. That also means connection, both to the internet and to the people around them.
We're going to keep it going as long as we need to keep it going.
And the director said they do plan to keep this open till at least the end of October. Carly Haynes, WRAL News, live in Hendersonville.
Let's get you caught up on some of the other big headlines of the day, including more updates out of the North Carolina mountains. Here are 5 things you should know right now. The entire Blue Ridge Parkway remains closed, and it's going to stay that way for the foreseeable future. The National Park Service says crews have encountered tens of thousands of downed trees across roads and nearly a dozen rock and mudslides. Today, we learned more than 630 roads are still closed statewide. The Buncombe County Board of Elections approved new times and locations for early voting. 10 of the county's 80 polling locations have been approved so far. Officials are still working to assess the other sites. Early voting starts October 17th. Cumberland County will build a new E.E. Smith High School, but it won't go on the property offered by Fort Liberty. Commissioners say the on-post location would not allow for development around the school, which would cost around $120 million. High school football players will get to play most of their games despite delays from Helene. Today, the State High School Athletic Association extended the regular season by a week. It now ends November 9th, with playoff brackets coming out the next day. Other sports with changes include tennis, volleyball, golf, soccer, and cross country. State lottery funds will pay for new schools at 2 districts in our area. Edgecombe and Sampson counties will each receive $62 million. Edgecombe will use the money to consolidate 3 schools, renovate a high school, and build new facilities. Sampson County will build a new career and tech magnet high school.
5 on Your Side received over a dozen complaints from people who had trips booked to Western North Carolina but couldn't get a refund or any rescheduling options when they tried to cancel. These travelers want to support the area, but they say they'd rather visit when the community is ready for that sort of tourism to return. When the rental companies, though, wouldn't budge, they called Keely Arthur for help.
Whit Tuttle, Executive Director of Visit North Carolina, is currently on a statewide bike tour promoting tourism.
Every year we sponsor a cycling ride called Cycle NC.
While Tuttle wants travelers to support Western North Carolina, he stresses that now isn't the time to visit.
Access is going to be an issue for a while, and water in some places is still an issue.
Not all areas are affected, which is why Visit North Carolina created this map. Red means stay away. Everything else is okay. Despite the clear advisory, 5 on Your Side has received multiple complaints from viewers struggling to get refunds or reschedule vacation rentals in the area. something Tuttle says isn't right, even if it is legal. In North Carolina, by law, a mandatory evacuation order triggers an automatic cancellation for rental bookings. But that wasn't the case in much of the mountains.
That language is triggered by mandatory evacuations, which we typically see on the coast when we have hurricanes. But we didn't see a lot of mandatory evacuations in the mountains when we had hurricanes.
Vrbo and Airbnb have issued policies to give refunds for certain dates and locations. 5 on Your Side received several complaints about bookings with Vacasa. We have yet to hear back from them, but we did hear back from another company, Carolina Cabins. When we emailed them pointing out that Tommy Harris's booking in Boone for the weekend was in the red zone, he received an email back offering him a refund. Writing to 5 on Your Side, I can't thank you enough.
Is the Tourism Bureau encouraging places to be especially flexible right now?
Yeah, we definitely are. We'd like to see everyone, do the right thing and help people out. Look at the long term.
Keely Arthur, 5 on Your Side.
Sometimes Airbnbs fit better for the plans. Maybe if you're going with a lot of family, hotels don't always fit that, and they're not always ideal, but they do tend to offer more straightforward cancellation policies, typically 1 to 7 days in advance.
Yeah. Hey, as rumors spread about Helene's storm relief online, we ask an expert about what we can do about it. He really is the expert. Bill Adair invented PolitiFact. What he says about the misinformation about the storm and the future of fact-checking with the onset of AI. Social media is a breeding ground for misinformation, rumors, and then just straight up lies. Between the presidential election and the response to Helene, we've seen a lot of it lately. Our PolitiFact team is tasked with fact-checking this stuff. And with so much to check, I spoke to the man who invented PolitiFact. Joining me right now is Bill Adair, longtime journalist and now the Knight Chair of Journalism and Public Policy at Duke. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you co-founded PolitiFact, which is something that we use a lot here at WRAL. You've got a new book out, Beyond the Big Lie. It talks a lot about this. And you were just on The Daily Show on Monday night talking about the misinformation epidemic. It's really huge. So let's start there with all the stuff going on around on social media in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. WRAL has done several segments on PolitiFact trying to debunk some of this information. So how do we combat this? As you know, truth does not spread the way that lies do.
Even in 2007, we knew that the crowd would spread misinformation. Back then, it was emails, chain emails. Your crazy uncle would send you something, and you'd be like, "Wait, that's not true." So we fact-checked those, and inevitably, they were not true. But what's different today is that they spread so fast, and we have new things that weren't available back then. X, formerly Twitter. We have Facebook, much bigger than it was back then. We have TikTok.
Exactly.
And all these things spread it so fast. So how do we combat it? We have to use those things, those same platforms, to get the correct information out there. And we just have to be more assertive, I think, in doing it in the media. And we have to think of ourselves in a little bit different way. Instead of waiting for people to come to us, we have to put the information out there a little more assertively ourselves.
Yeah, I've been reading through your book. It's a really interesting one, and I want to read an excerpt from it. It says, "For years, political reporters and fact checkers were reluctant to say a politician lied. Journalists were trying to be consistent with the definition that a lie was a, quote, false statement made with deliberate intent to deceive. How, they asked, could they know the politician's intent?" When you get back to your topic of needing to be more assertive and aggressive, do journalists need to do a better job of calling a lie a lie?
Yeah, and I think also in asking politicians about lying. I've definitely mellowed on using the word lie. We used to be very particular saying it's a falsehood, and we only use the word lie once a year for the lie of the year. And I come to realize people call them lies. They're not so focused on was it deliberate, because I think in most cases the politician knows. Where I think we really need to do better is journalists need to ask politicians, hey, why did you do that? And we don't do that enough. We don't talk to politicians about lying. I think there's a reluctance to confront them about that.
You spoke on The Daily Show about how fact-checking should evolve in the face of AI. I want to play a clip from that show. Let's watch.
The atomic unit of fact-checking.
I think humans will be needed to create fact checks. We hear what's wrong. We need to research it. We need to respond to it. But yes, AI can be used to spread it more efficiently to broader audiences.
And to be more responsive.
So what are the ways that AI can be more responsive, can more quickly spread the fact check?
Sure. So North Carolina is a great example. So we have PolitiFact North Carolina here at WRAL. We don't have fact checking in a lot of neighboring states, in South Carolina, in Tennessee. So this would be a great opportunity if politicians in South Carolina or Tennessee repeat the same claims that we're hearing here, to then take the fact checks that you do here at WRAL, use generative AI to tweak them, to adjust them to the claims that have been made in these other states, and then make them available in those other states. That can be done quickly and efficiently, and still, and the reason, and John made fun of this, I call this half-baked pizza, because like a half-baked pizza, a human needs to review it to make sure that it's accurate. So in the same way that PolitiFact North Carolina here at WRAL has humans that review the fact checks, you need to have somebody who checks it before it goes to South Carolina or Tennessee, but they can ensure the quality.
Beyond the Big Lie, Bill Adair, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bill Adair will be signing his book later this month in Chapel Hill. It's going to be at 6 p.m. on October 24th at Flyleaf Books. Guys?
Very interesting, actually. And, you know, a lot of these lies come from chaos, and we have certainly endured a lot of chaos recently, and now we're taking a look at what's happening here in the Gulf.
And, you know, we've been focused on Helene here in North Carolina, and we saw such devastation, but you've got to remember, Helene first hit the Gulf Coast side of Florida, so this is the second one for them, and they've already seen 2 major hurricanes in just this year, and before that there was one last year and 2022 as well. So we're looking at the outer eye wall right now, about to make landfall. It's not officially landfall though until the center of the eye is over land, so we're still a couple hours away from that, an hour or 2 away from official landfall. It does look like this is going to be just south of Tampa, awfully close to the Sarasota region. Let's talk about Milton's winds over 110 miles per hour likely in this vicinity. So it's a pretty large wind radii where you've got winds of around 120 miles per hour all the way to the east side of Florida. So it crosses the peninsula over through Orlando and toward Palm Beach. That's where you get winds around 100 miles per hour there in red. So it's really the entire peninsula that's likely to see some significant rainfall and wind from Milton. But when you look at the winds, I mean, these numbers are pretty impressive given that it's going to maintain its intensity potentially as a hurricane during the entire pass from west to east over the peninsula. Top winds right now 120 miles per hour. It's moving to the northeast at about 15 miles per hour. I do want to show you the more reliable model plots for Milton and just reassure you that this is not a threat to North Carolina. We will keep an eye on Bermuda down the road, but it looks like it'll stay just south of there right now. And the consensus is for the worst side of the storm, which would be just south of the eye, to stay ever so slightly south of Orlando, but it's going to be a close call for them. As we look ahead to tonight, we're likely to continue to see it maintain its hurricane strength. Milton close to Orlando right around tomorrow morning, around daybreak, and then the center of the storm should be offshore off the east coast by tomorrow afternoon. For us here in North Carolina, we have high pressure that's going to help to suppress this system to the south. It stays well south and east of the Carolinas, but it's also going to be tracking right along this stalled boundary that you see back here. So this stalled front helps to kind of steer it to the east, and we've got Canadian high pressure to the north. That's going to help to keep things quiet for us. So locally around here this week, really no issues weather-wise expected. I do want to let you know hurricane season officially ends on November 30th, though once we get to the beginning of November, we do typically see our hurricane activity winding down in the area. So we're not there just yet. On average, October still can be pretty active in the Atlantic. Tomorrow, we've got temperatures around 70 for the high. It's gorgeous, sunny and dry. We dip down to 45, the coolest morning so far this season Friday morning. A brief warm up over the weekend, still not humid, and then even cooler weather next week. We'll have a closer look at the latest on Milton tonight on WRAL News at 10 and 11.
That's a pretty nice forecast that we have here locally. We will enjoy that. Thanks, Kat.
Our one last thing tonight is a moment of happiness in the midst of hurricane cleanup. A pair of first responders tying the knot. That's in 2 minutes.
One last thing before we go, a really heartwarming story out of Henderson County.
We need these stories. I love these stories. So 2 first responders, Rhonda and Eric, they planned their dream wedding in Glacier Park. It was set for last week, but Helene had other plans. They've been helping with response instead. That's how they've been spending their time. But the storm didn't stop them from saying, I do. The couple stuck to their original wedding date, holding the ceremony right there at the Buncombe County Distribution Center. And it's something they will probably never forget. And they lifted a lot of hearts that needed it at that time.
Congratulations, Rhonda and Eric. And thank you for making WRAL your choice for local news. Our next newscast is at 10 on Fox 50, 11 on WRAL.